Suburban mornings are supposed to be easy, coffee steaming sprinklers, whispering the kind of quiet that settles on your shoulders and tells you you made the right choice moving here. Mine started with my wife Laura setting a small charity table on our porch, blue cloth, a jar for donations to the hospital's trauma unit, a tray of cookies she stayed up too late baking. Then I heard the click of heels sharp and fast, and before my brain caught up, our HOA's vice president, Patricia Norwell, marched up our steps like she owned the deed to the block, and with one mean little grin and a shove of her heel, she kicked Laura down the stairs. I didn't think I dropped to the walkway and cradled her head, kept her neck still, that calm voice I learned on deployments coming out of me even while my pulse hammered. "You're okay, stay with me, don't move." Somewhere in the scramble, I hit 911, rattled off the details the way they want them: adult female, possible concussion, shallow breathing, and then I pressed a recessed button on the sat phone clipped to my belt. I don't use it unless the sky is really falling. Around my office, they call it signal amber. 3 minutes later, give or take the time it takes for a diesel engine to rise in your chest. Like thunder, 5 military convoys rolled into Cedar Harbor and stopped in front of the illegal gate our HOA called a beautification improvement. If you're wondering how a guy like me ended up with a sat phone in a neighborhood full of people terrified of a clipboard, the short answer is emergency operations for the state. Not glamorous, mostly maps and drills and making sure routes stay open when life tilts, the kind of work you hope nobody ever notices, because it means nothing went wrong. Laura's an ER nurse who believes in people sometimes more than they deserve. And when we moved here, we told ourselves the brochure version of this place: quiet streets, lake breeze, neighbors who say hello, wasn't a lie, just a promise that needed a little help. Patricia made sure it never quite came true. She's not the president, technically. That's a man named Nolan Pierce who folds at the first hint of conflict. But Patricia has the voice, the heels, the laminated binder, the hunger. First, it was a citation for our wind chimes not being neutral. Then it was a warning to Mrs. Delgado down the block that her porch ramp ruined the visual cohesion. Marcus Hale, a retired Marine who flies his flag high and straight, got dinged for his pole being 3 inches over some rule that probably came out of thin air. Alone, each thing felt petty. Stacked together, it felt like a tightening fist. The gate was where I drew the line. It went up one Tuesday, wrought iron ornamental swirls keypad that barely registered a touch, and it blocked the east entrance the county lists as an emergency corridor, not a suggestion, but a lifeline. I wrote emails, attached maps, cited the codes by number, offered to explain in person. The only reply I got came from Patricia herself. "Your concern is noted. The improvement remains." I read it twice, set the phone down, and felt that old itch, how you can see a disaster before it happens, and still no one moves until the smoke is in their lungs. The morning of the incident was supposed to be their crown jewel community pride day. Patricia had a pastel suit and designer sunglasses, and one of those battery megaphones she charged to our dues. She paced the sidewalks, pointing, measuring, scolding. Laura, who believes a good day can be coaxed into existence, set her table on the porch edge with a handmade sign, "Hospital Relief Fund, help us save lives." She even offered Patricia a cookie. Patricia pulled a yellow tape from her tote and snapped it out like a gunfighter. Too close to the walk obstruction solicitation. Neighbors drifted over the way people do when they sense a storm brewing and can't look away. Marcus stood across the street with his phone already recording, like he knew where this was going. "Rules are rules," Patricia said without looking at me. "Pack it up or face fines." "It's a hospital fundraiser," Laura said, still hopeful, still soft. "You could donate or you could just let us be good today." That's when Patricia stepped past the line of our porch and leaned in so close I could smell the chemical sweetness of her perfume. "This is my community," she said, every word clipped. Everyone obeys. I swear she smiled when she lifted her foot. The tray went first, cookies ringing on the stone like cheap cymbals. Then Laura's hands flew up, then the breath punched out of her when she hit. People gasped. Nolan wrung his hands and said he'd make a note like that would stop the world from spinning. I told him to call 911, but I was already on with dispatch, and I already knew what else I had to do. You don't plan for a kick, but you plan for a system that refuses to listen until the stakes are unbearable. I'd spoken to an old colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Dana Avery, who was scheduling a guard drill for the county. I explained about the corridor, the emails, the gate nobody wanted to remove. Route the drill through Cedar Harbor, I said. If something sparks, let it go live. She told me not to count on miracles. I told her I wasn't. I was counting on documentation. So when the rumble approached, it starts in your ribs and then finds your throat heads turned with the same expression I've seen on highways, when the wildfire skirts the shoulder and a wall of engines erupts from the smoke. The first Humvee stopped at the gate. You could feel the air change. Doors opened, boots hit a perimeter formed so fast it looked like choreography. Lieutenant Colonel Avery climbed down, took one glance at Laura on the backboard, another at the ornamental mistake we'd been forced to drive around for weeks, then at Patricia holding her clipboard like a talisman. Engineer unit cut the barrier. MPs secure the scene. Medics assist EMS on delivery. Patricia lifted her chin, tried to plant herself. "This is private property," she said. "You need board authorization." Sergeant Caleb Ortiz from the sheriff's office stepped in, his body cam blinking red. "Ma'am, you're blocking a designated emergency route, and a woman's been assaulted. Stand clear." The engineers unrolled hydraulic cutters that looked like something between a guillotine and a miracle and sent sparks into the morning. When the lock gave way, the convoys rolled forward, and unless you've felt olive drab metal reclaim a street that never should have been taken, it's hard to describe the relief like the road exhaled. Things moved fast because professionals don't wander when time matters. I handed Avery a folder from my go bag, printed emails, time-stamped photos, the corridor designation, the whole paper trail I knew we'd need when this turned into something people argued about on the internet that night. The city inspector, Naomi Park, arrived with her own clipboard, the kind that has actual teeth, and started listing violations out loud, the way a doctor reads an X-ray, no permit, ADA obstruction, fire code breach, unlicensed contractor work. Then she pulled up the permit application and frowned. "Norwell & Sons Maintenance," she said. "No license on file. Registered last year." Patricia's face went pale in a way even makeup can't hide. A neighbor whispered. She paid her cousin, and 10 phones caught it. Sergeant Ortiz asked for Patricia's full name for the record, then if she denied the kick. She started to say, "Laura tripped," and Marcus, bless him, held up his phone with the freeze frame of the heel, the shin, the impact, and a sound you only make when pain doesn't give you time to disguise it. Even some of the soldiers winced. For the record, Ortiz said this looks intentional. Nolan finally found his spine long enough to mutter that he'd bring the HOA financials to the county, and you could feel the crowd tilt. People you never hear raise their voices started talking about fines for kids' chalk drawings, about letters that read like threats, about fear. And just like that, the clipboard lost its magic. Laura gave me a tired smile from the ambulance and told me not to hover. The medics said she'd be okay, concussion, bruised ribs, a week of soreness we'd both feel every time she laughed. Patricia was cited for assault and obstruction that afternoon. Within 2 days, Nolan resigned. Within a month, a receiver took over the association, which is a polite way of saying someone adult finally walked into the room and turned on the lights. Volunteers fixed Mrs. Delgado's ramp properly and repainted fences without measuring the height of the joy. Marcus helped start a neighborhood watch that actually watches for danger, not holiday lights. People asked me later if I planned the convoys like some petty revenge. I didn't. I planned for accountability and prayed nothing would force it into motion. Then Patricia made the choice, and honestly, I'm still angry about that. How fragile a morning can be when power is used like a hammer. I carry some guilt too, because even when you're right, escalation leaves marks. Laura says I did what I'm trained to do, protect the corridor, protect the people. She brings a neck brace to every new neighbor meeting and jokes that we're the before and after photo for sensible governance, and we laugh because you have to, because if you don't, that kick lives rent-free in your chest. We sit on the porch now, which we repaired ourselves, and the wind chimes make the exact sound Patricia said was unacceptable, and the street feels like it belongs to the people who live on it again. Sometimes I still hear engines in the distance, and it doesn't make me tense. It reminds me that order can arrive when you call it by its right name and back it with receipts. I know some folks watching this are going to say, the guard had no place on a cul-de-sac, that I pulled a lever. Regular people don't have that, it was too much. Others will say, this is what it takes to stop small bullies before they do big damage. That paper, if you stack it high enough, can be heavier than steel. So tell me, where do you land? Was signal amber the right call or a step too far if this happened on your street? An illegal gate, a community ruled by threat letters, a kick that could have been a tragedy. What would you have done and when? Drop your take in the comments. Share your own HOA story. Call me out if you think I crossed a line, or back me up if you think lines need holding. And if you want more real stories about neighborhoods reclaiming themselves messy human, sometimes loud, hit subscribe and stick around.